me thank everybody for coming out and welcoming our Vice President to Port Huron. Let me also say to you before I start my formal remarks how proud I am of our two candidates for State Representative, Karen Willard and Howard Heidemann. And let me tell you that our county-wide candidates, Fred Fuller, Marilyn Merrick, Walter Teff, and Paul Mashinsky, are the best county candidates you can find anywhere in this country, and we're going to make them officers of this great county. And we got a great field of candidates for county commissioner: Pam Wall, Pat Quinn, Martin Paul, Terry Gill, Ed Schultz, Frank Bacon, and Steve Ellery. They're going to represent you and give you the kind of government you deserve. So I want to welcome all of you here today. Over the past 4 years, our nation has made tremendous progress with Bill Clinton and Al Gore in the White House. But today, Al Gore has done something that no sitting vice president has ever done. Others have campaigned here, but as far as we can tell, Al Gore is the first sitting vice president to ever come to Port Huron. And not only has Al Gore come here today, this is the only stop he is making in Michigan. So, Mr. Vice President, let me be the first person to welcome you to our bridge to the 21st century. There are more than 1,200 students here today, and you're all going to get your chance now. I want to recognize the students from Port Huron Northern High School. From Port Huron High School. From Henry Ford II High School. From Catholic Academy. From Anchor Bay High School. From North Branch High School. Yes, right here. From Chippewa Middle School. From Parker Elementary School. There they are. And from St. Clair Community College. And we welcome, of course, all the other students here today. Now, take a good look, ladies and gentlemen, because these students are the real bridge to the 21st century. I also want to recognize the teachers that are here today, because I think the men and women who teach our kids are some of the real heroes in America today. Mr. Vice President, we are proud of our home and our community. Over the years, we have developed some simple tests that can help tell you if somebody is from Port Huron.
This is good.
For example, if you've ever had a Little League game snowed out, you might be from Port Huron. If your favorite holidays are Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the opening of deer season, you might be from Port Huron. If half the change in your pocket is Canadian, you might be from Port Huron. If any of your kids are named Sergey and Gordy, you might be from Port Huron. If the only cat you like is a border cat, you might be from Port Huron. And if you point to the palm of your right hand just below your thumb to show people where you live, you might be from Port Huron. But most of all, and finally, if you believe in working together, not waiting for other people to solve your problems, digging in and taking responsibility and getting the whole community involved, then you're probably from Port Huron. Now, over the years, with the great leadership of Jim Blanchard, our former governor and our ambassador, we have helped to keep this water clean and safe because we understand that our jobs and our health and our families depend on it. We have worked together to build strong schools because we understand that if our kids are going to succeed, they need a good education. And over the past 5 years, we have worked together to build first a new rail tunnel, then to build a new international trade center, and now to build a new bridge because we understand we need to invest in our future. It's no mistake that the Vice President came here today because with the tunnel and the bridge and the trade center, Port Huron is poised to be an engine for jobs and growth for years to come. And I want to take just a minute to thank the Vice President. There were other places much bigger than ours who lobbied hard to get the rail tunnel. But Bill Clinton and Al Gore decided to keep it here. Thanks to them, the new rail tunnel is creating jobs today. And I want to thank the Vice President for his help in getting funding for the International Center for Canadian American Trade. This is the only trade center of its kind in America. And in the years to come, it will help create jobs and open markets on both sides of the border. And finally, I want to thank the Vice President for helping to build this bridge. The new Blue Water Bridge is the result of an extraordinary partnership over the past few years between two nations, between government and business, between labor and local citizens, and between Democrats and Republicans who came together to make it happen. But if it wasn't for the Clinton administration, this bridge would just have been a dream. Bill Clinton and Al Gore helped move this bridge from the design table to the drawing board to reality. And since construction began 2 years ago, this bridge has already created over 2,000 new jobs in this community. And in the years to come, it will create thousands more. And I want to thank all the men and the women who have put their heart and their soul into the design and the construction of this wonderful edifice for this community. Thank you, workers, for all the things that you have done to make this a reality as well. Now, this administration has worked hard the past 4 years to bring down trade barriers around the world. And today, at the dawn of the global economy that has opened a whole new world to our two nations, the United States and Canada are now the largest trading partners in the world. Today, America, now listen to this, today America exports more products to the 10 million people of Ontario alone than to the 200 million people of Britain, Germany, Holland, France, and Belgium combined. That is an amazing statistic. The Blue Water area is the third, or some people say the fourth, we say the third largest, fastest growing link between our two nations. Nearly $46 billion worth of trade passed through this area last year alone. And I'm proud to say that under this administration, America is #1 in the sale of automobiles for the first time since the 1970s. Our bridge, our tunnel, and the whole community of Port Huron have been a vital link in the growth of that industry, and we're proud of it. If we continue to work together in the months and the years to come to create jobs, to keep our water safe and clean, our families and our community will continue to prosper and grow. Now, it may have taken 175 years for a vice president to come to Port Huron, but from where I'm standing here today, Bill Clinton and Al Gore came just in time. You know, I've had the pleasure of knowing Al Gore for more than 20 years. We were elected to Congress together, we served together, and a few times each week we played basketball together. In fact, the vice president promised me that if I don't mention all the times I beat him in a free throw contest, he won't mention all the times he beat me one-on-one. For more than 2 decades, Vice President Al Gore has been one of the most innovative and the hardest working leaders in America. Al Gore was talking about the information superhighway when most people thought it was just a road in France. Over the past 4 years, the Vice President has spearheaded the administration's effort to get more computers into our schools and to make education a priority. He has been one of the leading voices in America for clean water. Last year, he led the fight when Newt Gingrich tried to roll back environmental protection. Now, Newt Gingrich is the kind of guy who would jump on a tree stump to give a speech on conservation. But you know, for more than 2 decades, Al Gore has always been showing us new ways to clean up our environment in a way that creates jobs and protects families. In fact, at one point during the budget negotiations last fall, President Clinton and Al Gore were in a high-level meeting with Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich and Dick Armey. And after they met for 2 hours, Newt Gingrich leaned forward and said, "Mr. President, unless you agree to our cuts in Medicare, education, and the environment, we are not going to reopen the government." And hearing that, Al Gore leapt out of his seat. He looked at the speaker straight in the eye, and he told him in no uncertain terms that there's no way that we were ever going to agree to their cuts in Medicare, education, and the environment. The way out of that meeting, Bob Dole leaned over to Dick Armey and he said, "Al Gore is driving me nuts." Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a leader, a builder, a fighter, and the man who drives Bob Dole nuts. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, Al Gore. Thank you, Port Huron! Thank you so much for that standing ovation. I'm so... David, thank you for your friendship and your kind words. You've got one great congressman, ladies and gentlemen, David Bonnier. David Bonnier has been telling me about this beautiful place for a long time. Having seen it now with my own eyes, I can't believe that no vice president or president has ever been here in the history of this community. But I'm telling you what, this won't be the last visit. This is a great, beautiful place. David has told me about the history of this place when Harry Truman brought his bride here for their honeymoon. One of millions of Americans who come here because of the natural beauty of this place. David has told me about the fact that Thomas Alva Edison made his boyhood home here, was educated here, began to cultivate his genius here. David's invited me back for some perch and walleye and smelt. He
told me you better know the difference between a bobcat and a border cat when you're here in Port Huron. He's a walking advertisement for this beautiful community, and I am really, really proud to be here. And I want to thank Ambassador, former Governor Jim Blanchard for being here and for his leadership over the years for Michigan and for America. Thank you, Jim, for doing such a great job. I want to also acknowledge Barbara Levin, wife of Senator Carl Levin, who is here, right over here, and a great friend to Timber and me, and to Judy and David. And, you know, I am reminded by the second largest of the Great Lakes up the river here, that it was Carl Levin who undertook the Great Lakes Initiative and is really doing fantastic work for jobs and the environment. And let's make sure that we re-elect Senator Carl Levin this year on November the 5th. And I want to thank Mayor Stephen Miller of Port Huron for all of the hospitality here today, and the local officials who have been acknowledged and those who are candidates for local office. And I'd like to particularly single out State Representative and Assistant Minority Floor Leader Karen Willard, a fellow environmentalist. Let's make sure that she is reelected November the 5th. And also a teacher and a fantastic candidate for State Representative Howard Heidemann. Let's elect Howard on November the 5th. You know, right here at Port Huron, you have the opportunity to determine the future of the state legislature in the state of Michigan. And these two candidates are extremely important in determining what kind of future your state will have. That's a good sign, don't you think? That's the kind of enthusiasm we need. And that's the kind of trade flows that we're having under Bill Clinton as president, bringing jobs right here to Port Huron. I want to thank Frank Garrison, Michigan's AFL-CIO president. Speaking of jobs, thank you very much. And to all the members of organized labor who are here, and to all the students who are here. And I'd like to also thank two great bands, the Henry Ford High School Marching Band and the Port Huron Northern High School Marching Band. Thank you both. You know, David mentioned that Bob Dole had said, and that was reported in the New York Times, I remember it well, when he said Al Gore is driving me nuts. My reaction is, well, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. But I don't know whether it's accurate or not, but if it's true that I'm driving Bob Dole nuts, we know who's been driving Newt Gingrich nuts. That's David Bonnier. That's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. He's doing it extremely well. It's true what David said. We've been friends for more than 20 years. I've watched his outstanding leadership for this congressional district and for the entire United States of America. No one fights harder. No one has done a better job. And in fact, you can see this bridge to the future that the President and I talk about in symbolic terms so frequently. You can see it in concrete terms thanks to the work of Congressman David Bonnier. The third largest crossing and conduit of trade between Canada and the United States of America is getting bigger and broader and stronger, bringing more jobs to Port Huron thanks to Congressman David Bonnier. Now, I appreciate David talking about my basketball skills. It's true, and it's true that he and I have played quite a few games. You know, he was a quarterback in football in college and really a great athlete. And I'm really known for my moves on the basketball court. It comes from my dancing skills. No, I can't do the Macarena today. Oh, okay. You want to see it again? I get those stiff jokes everywhere I go. I had a debate with Jack Kemp about 3 weeks ago. Did any of you see that? Well, after that debate, one of the commentators actually said on national television, Vice President Al Gore distinguished himself this evening from the wooden podium in front of him. I get that all the time. I'm used to it, though. I've heard almost all of them by now. If you use a strobe light, it looks like Al Gore is moving. You get the point. How can you tell Al Gore from a room full of Secret Service agents? He's the stiff one. Al Gore is so boring, his Secret Service code name is Al Gore. Every time I hear another one of those jokes for the first time, I always have the same reaction. Very funny, Tipper. But I have to tell you, in spite of that, I enjoy being vice president, and I went on the David Letterman show not long ago to give a top 10 list of the most enjoyable things about being vice president. I'm not going to give that whole list here today, but I remember number 5 on the list because this podium here reminds me of it with the great seal of the vice president. If you look at that seal and close your left eye and turn your head just right, it says, President of the United States of America. One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. Get me in trouble here. Let me start with a prediction here today, and I don't normally make predictions, so I'd like to ask you to just keep it between us here in Port Huron. On November the 5th, the great state of Michigan is going to put the Clinton-Gore team over the top for 4 more years and re-elect David Barker and re-elect Carl Levin. Elect these Democrats to the state legislature. But you know, in order to make that prediction come true, we've got a lot of hard work to do. It's the kind of work that David Bonnier has done to secure the expansion of this bridge here, the kind of work that he and Carl and I have done to reinvent government, the kind of work that David has done to secure the rail tunnel to Canada that the President and I helped him with, and the location of the International Trade Center, the kind of work he's done over the years to help secure justice for Vietnam-era veterans that he and I worked on together for so long, and there's some of them right here in this audience. The kind of work that we've done to bring jobs here. You know, you can see the results of this kind of work if you think back to what it was like 4 years ago. 4 years ago in Port Huron, the unemployment rate was 10.5%. Our nation was in a triple-dip recession. Supply-side economics had led to deficits of almost $300 billion a year, expanded the gap between the rich and poor, thrown millions of people out of work, created a situation where jobs were being shipped overseas, hope was diminishing, our national self-confidence was fading. Every time businesses felt a little strength in the economy and tried to borrow money, they ran into all that government borrowing under supply side, and interest rates shot up, and the economy sputtered out and slipped back into recession, and unemployment went back up again. We needed a change 4 years ago. Bill Clinton and I came to Michigan and said, it's time for a change. Thank you, Michigan, for giving us a chance to bring change to the United States. Now, here's what's happened. The day after the inauguration, when Bill Clinton took the oath of office, when I took the oath of office, the very next day, he called the congressional leadership, including Dole and Gingrich, into the White House, and he said, here is my proposal for change. And Bob Dole looked at the president and he said, "You will not get a single Republican vote for change." And true enough, every single Republican in the Congress, House and Senate, voted for the status quo, even though Port Huron had 10.5% unemployment. They didn't want change. They weren't willing to vote for change. And we had a tough fight getting change. Luckily, we had David Bonyer in a position of leadership and influence to round up votes in the Congress, and we finally eked it out in the House of Representatives by a single vote margin. Then, thanks to Carl Levin, we got some Democrats in the Senate to take the tough votes. But still, even there, when it came over to the Senate, where I preside as vice president, this plan for change was a 50-50 tie, causing momentary despair. You know your Constitution. There is a provision therein, seldom used but extremely significant. Translated, it says, "Every time I vote, we win." I voted, and we won, and change came to Port Huron, and to Michigan, and to America. And here's what's happened since that day. The unemployment rate in Port Huron has come down, down, down from 10.5% to 5.5%. In Michigan, it's come down to 4.5%. 10.5 million new jobs have been created. Nationally, the unemployment rate has gone down 20%. African American unemployment has gone down below double digits for the first time in a quarter century. The poverty rate's come down by more than it has in 30 years. Elderly poverty's come down to the lowest rate ever recorded in the history of the United States of America. We're seeing progress. Wages are going up. We passed a raise in the minimum wage over the opposition of Dole and Gingrich. In every category, wages are going up. The typical family in the state of Michigan in the last 4 years has seen real income go up by $2,000 per family. That's real change that you can feel and touch and make a difference with. And while we've had this expanded growth in the job market, we've had more new small businesses created each of the last 3 years than in any other year in American history. And women-owned businesses are increasing at twice the national rate, coming on strong, creating jobs, prosperity. And while we've had this strength in the job market and small businesses, we've seen the stock market reach a record high 30 times this year. It's going up because our economy is going up. And while the growth is coming on strong, inflation has gone down. Interest rates down. Now, if you have strong growth going up and inflation going down, that's kind of what you want. That's the kind of result that we fought for. And one of the ways we've done it with David Bonyer's leadership is to reduce the budget deficit 4 years in a row. Reduce it 66%, on the way to a balanced budget for the first time in 30 years. We've increased investments in education and protecting the environment, including clean water and the Great Lakes, while we have reduced the budget deficit so dramatically. And one of the ways we've done that is by reinventing government. David mentioned this. We've worked together, and Carl Levin has been a leader on this as well. Reinventing government is what we call our REGO initiative. That's Gore spelled sideways. I've worked hard on that. We've downsized the federal government by 250,000 people. We're eliminating 16,000 pages of regulations, and we're making it work better while it costs less. Now, the overall result is the auto industry is #1 again. The United States of America is #1 in productivity again. We're headed in the right direction, and we're building a bridge to the future. With your help, we're going to complete that bridge just as you complete this bridge to the future. Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich have offered themselves, in Senator Dole's phrase, as a bridge to the past. There is a sharp contrast between the approach we're offering and the approach that they are offering. We want to invest more in education, for example, because this community, which educated Thomas Alva Edison, has demonstrated that our future depends upon new discoveries that will be made by these young people who are learning how to learn. In the future, what you earn will depend upon what you learn. That's why we have expanded Head Start, expanded college student loans, expanded Pell Grants, invested more in science and technology, and that's why President Clinton is proposing Hope Scholarships to give these young people and their families a $1,500 tax credit to make the first 2 years of community college free all across the United States of America. And for those who want to go further, the President is proposing a tax deduction of $10,000 per year so that with very few exceptions, no family in the United States of America will ever again pay taxes on any money used for college tuition or higher education or graduate school. That's important to your future. Now, by contrast, the President's opponent has proposed cutting $30 billion out of education, eliminating the Department of Education. He voted against Head Start. He's been bashing teachers, putting down public schools. We love teachers. We want to lift up public schools and all schools. Reform education. Stand by it. Invest more in it. Make it work. Same thing can be seen in the contrast on the environment. We have seen the importance in this community of clean water. We've seen the importance of that Great Lakes initiative. We've seen the importance of cleaning up waste sites. We've seen the importance of the kind of environmental leadership that David Bonyer has always stood for, planting trees in every race he's ever run, handing out seedlings, protecting the environment for our future, doing it in a way that creates jobs and promotes productivity. By contrast, we saw that Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich tried to turn over the responsibility for our environmental laws to the lobbyists for the biggest polluters in America. They proposed 40% cuts in environmental protection, taking the environmental cop off the beat. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the future of this community, the future of Michigan, our country, and our whole world depends upon the United States of America providing good, solid leadership to protect our water and our air and our land and clean up the environment in a common sense way. Now, the other side fought for a completely different set of priorities. And David told you a story about that showdown in the Oval Office. They shut the government down twice. David Bonyer was the one who took on Newt Gingrich and rallied support from all over the United States to say this contract, this agenda that included some real extremist provisions is not good for America. And so thanks to David Bonyer, they couldn't get enough votes to override the president's veto. That's why they shut down the government. And that's why they're trying to replace Bill Clinton. They found an obstacle they couldn't get around because President Clinton is the one who said, as long as I'm president, I won't let you adopt this agenda. Now, as they try to replace him, we have a message for Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich. We won't let them. We won't let them adopt that contract. We won't let them do what they have proposed. They have tried to slash education and put teachers down instead of lifting students up. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton. But we won't let them. They've tried to let the health insurance ripoff artists rewrite the Medicare plan so that it withers on the vine. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton. But we won't let them. They've asked the lobbyists for the polluters to rewrite the Clean Water Act and allow much more pollution in our water and our air. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton. But we won't let them. We will not. We must not. We cannot. With your help, we'll re-elect Bill Clinton to another 4 years and re-elect David Bonyer and re-elect Carl Levin and elect these Democrats to the state legislature. But ladies and gentlemen, it is up to you. And I want to particularly ask these young people to get involved in this election. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to those who are undecided. We need your help. And on this beautiful day, I would like to close with a question that I'd like to ask you to think about while you're watching the Border Cats. How would you like to feel on the morning after the election? You've got two choices. Now here's the scenario. You've stayed up late watching the election returns on television, and you went to sleep before the results were known. And so now you're waking up on the morning of Wednesday, November the 6th, and you've got two choices. Here's the first choice. You could wake up with a terrible headache. Look out the window and the sky is dark and cloudy. Hard driving sleet is hammering against the window pane. You rub the sleep out of your eyes and you get out of bed and your knees are sore and creaky, and you walk toward the front door and stub your toe on a chair. Open the door and there's the newspaper in a puddle of water and sleet, frozen and soaked. And you pick it up and you peel back the front page and hold it up to the porch light, and it says Dole wins. There is another option. You could wake up on the morning of November the 6th just feeling great. Sun shining in through the window. Little birds chirping on the windowsill. Fresh cut flowers on the table beside the bed. The pleasant aroma mingling with the scent of fresh brewed coffee wafting in from the kitchen. You leap out of bed, your favorite tune on the radio, the Macarena. And you dance to the front door, and you fling it open with a flourish, and you pick up that newspaper, and it says, Clinton Gore wins! On your way!